All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. This is Gavaskar Reed from the New York City Department of Education, the Career and Technical Education Office specifically. And today we are featuring the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. And I'm very honored that the SHPE team has accepted my invitation to do this session today. And this session is open to all of our students, all of our staff members who are interested in learning about various careers in construction and engineering and STEM in general. This is a part of our CTE Industry Connection series that my team and I have been doing throughout the school year. So we have meetings that focus on the building trades. We have meetings that focus on automotive. We have meetings that focus on healthcare, on IT, on culinary, on everything you can imagine. So in case you are a student or a staff member, you've been working remotely and you've been wondering, how can we keep in touch with the industry? How can I still connect my kids to professionals from the industry who can talk about their careers? This is the absolute best place to be. And I'm welcoming everybody to please feel free to utilize the chat box. This is an open communication type meeting we're having. And if you have the cameras off, I'm welcoming you. If you do so feel comfortable, feel free to turn them on. Use the chat box, introduce yourself. If you're a student, you're a teacher, you're a work-based learning coordinator, you're an administrator, or you are one of our industry partners, feel free to introduce yourself. And we're gonna just have a lot of fun today. This is an informal meeting. What I did was I sent out documentation to each of your schools. So if you want to use this activity as some sort of work-based learning activity, feel free and go ahead. Utilize the student reflection documents that I sent out. I'm also going to drop them in the chat box as well. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Anthony Jara. Thanks, Anthony.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Anthony Jara with the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. I'm also part of the Society, repeat myself here, SHPE, but also you see my shirt, I'm part of the Army Corps of Engineers in my professional career. I've invited several members from our organization to work with us in presenting a holistic picture of the construction industry in the real world. And so along with me, I have Nick Tapia here, if he can say hello, Ray, real quick, Jose Suarez and Daniel Way, and I'll quickly introduce all of them as far as what their roles and responsibilities are in the industry, and to kind of give a quick introduction to themselves. So, Nick, would you like to start off and give yourself a little background on what do you do in the construction industry?
Sure. Hi, guys. My name is Nitz Tapia. I am a project manager for the Whiting Turner Contracting Company. Been with the Whiting Turner Contracting Company for 15 years. I work out of the White Plains, New York office. Like I said, project management, and what we do at Whiting Turner predominantly is construction management. I don't know how much more info you guys want, but please feel free to ask. That's what I'm here for.
Thank you, Nick. Next, I'll present Jose Suarez.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Gav, once again. Well, I'm a mechanical engineering graduate from NYU Polytech, now known as NYU Tandon. Right out of college, I started working as a mechanical design engineer for a MEP mechanical, electrical, plumbing design firm based out of New York City. And I left last year, a couple of weeks before the pandemic really became a thing. And I transitioned over to more of a facilities operations side within the Mount Sinai Health System. I currently serve as the Assistant Director of Energy and Plant Operations. So, I still get to work with a lot of the systems that I used to design in my last job, but now more on the operations side, overseeing a team of engineering and plant staff. And yeah, so I'm still within that 0 to 5, I guess, window of experience, but I'm more than happy to share my experiences so far with everyone.
Thank you. And Daniel Way.
Hi, my name is Daniel Way. I'm with the Army Corps of Engineers. I'm an electrical engineer. I work in the QA section. I primarily review designs and respond to any questions or issues in the field of construction. I'm sorry for I don't have that video working since it's not working currently.
sorry, we know technology issues. I go through myself every day here. So once again, I'm with the Corps of Engineers. I am a civil engineer, but contracting officer, representative, project engineer here on site. Work out of West Point, mainly dealing with construction and contract oversight, quality assurance, and submittal reviews. So I go through a lot of things, but mainly contract management and enforcement on a day-to-day basis. So, so my next thing, I just kind of want to quickly introduce you to our organization, SHPE. We're a nationwide organization with over 300 individual chapters nationwide of both alumni, I mean professionals just like myself and the panelists, but also of undergraduate students in the university level and also community college level. We do have some high school chapters around the country, and mainly they're all spread out, but they are usually associated with a college chapter that's nearby. Here in New York City alone, we have over 15 chapters in the metro area. Some of them are on the Hank College, NYU, Bond College, City College, Columbia University, NJIT, University of Connecticut, Lehman College, City College again. So we're all spread out. And also like RPI upstate New York. We've been existing for almost 50 years, and our main goal is to essentially make sure that all Hispanics have the opportunity to enter the STEM career field and to provide them a platform with which they can expand and start off their career on the right foot. And also at the same time, provide the greater Latinx community with more knowledge of how they can enter the STEM career fields. Just be more aware of what opportunities exist. And this event itself is one of our opportunities where we can discuss with you, what we do every day and what kind of opportunities exist. As far as membership is concerned, everyone here can become a member, even as high school students. All you have to do is just kind of look up our information at shpe.org and basically sign up for there. And then you can then either begin to work to construct a local chapter or just associate yourself with any other outreach activities that are occurring. So one program that we do have locally here that's run by the University of RPI, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. They basically have an outreach weekend, which they just had last week virtually. Essentially, again, it's a whole weekend where they immerse you with the college experience, but also any STEM programs that they have. And they actually give you a team building project and a quick experiment that you do over a span of 3 days. And you present it just like you were an engineer overall to a group of panelists to see, evaluate you on your progress of work. So there are many activities that we do as far as outreach is concerned. And again, this is one of them that we're doing here. So I'm going to ask each one of our panelists the following question. And I'm going to start with Danny. For students that are going to enter the STEM field, what kind of tips do you have for somebody, if they're in high school, how should they be preparing to get themselves into the STEM field?
I think just don't be afraid of taking math and science courses, and just like if you don't understand something, just ask questions. And sometimes there's different ways to understand problems. You might have to take a different approach, or just constantly ask teachers or friends, or try to just work it out, because don't let it discourage you just because you don't like math or science. Just try to work through it and just try to learn as much as you can.
How about you, Nit?
Well, I would, my father actually had this idea before, or preparing me to go to college. He actually signed me up at a local community college for some courses, so that when I went into school, I was better prepared for things like calculus and things like that. In high school, I took AP classes, so I graduated my senior year having done calculus too. But my dad, knew going into college that it was going to be a totally different realm, especially for engineering. So he enrolled me in community college, and it actually turned out to be really, really helpful and really affordable. So if that's something you want to go into with STEM, I would highly recommend finding your local community college and maybe taking some courses over the summer to get you ready.
How about you, Jose?
Sure, just unmuting myself. There's a little beep going on in the background, so I apologize for that. Yeah, I would say, go into college expecting there to be an imbalance, I guess, because not all high school programs are created equal. So don't be shy, or don't feel bad that you may be going into a college program feeling like you know a little less than your peers, right? That's fine, but you can do something to counteract that as well. Like the Nit said, take some college pre-college courses. If any of those are offered at the high school level, then go ahead and take them, right? Put yourself out there, because you want to be best prepared for when you start college. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you. And for me myself, just so you guys know, I was okay, decent math in high school. When I was trying to take the SATs at the time, I didn't do so well. I had to take it 3 times in order to pass. I actually took a prep class finally to get prepared myself, because after the first time I thought, yeah, I'll take it, no big deal. And then I didn't do so good. So I took a prep class to kind of get ready for it, get mentally prepared, and practice, which is what I would tell everybody. That's the best advice I could give to anybody. And then finally I got enough of a grade to enter college, so get be accepted in the program. So just because you get a setback from an exam, I would suggest anybody is just go back and find out what you did wrong and practice it and figure out, how to better prepare yourself the next time. So that's my best advice, at least for entering any STEM fields, and how should you aim for. So let me ask Jose, what programs or organizations do you recommend students to kind of get interested in their particular STEM field?
Going back to what I said, put yourself out there, right? Because you're never going to really know until you expose yourself to all the different potential, I guess, academic paths that you may take, right? So going to, I'm going to advocate for SHEP here, put my SHEP hat on. Go to these SHEP Noche de Ciencias, right? These are annual events that local SHEP chapters host. You've got presentations on anything related to, chemical, computer engineering, mechanical engineering. So again, I can't emphasize enough about the importance of putting yourself in not so much an uncomfortable spot, but in a situation that you necessarily haven't been before, right? Expose yourself to I guess the different possibilities that the STEM academic field can offer you.
Thank you. How about you, Nit?
Anthony, you want to repeat the question? I think I heard.
Sure. So what programs or organizations do you recommend students to get involved with or to get more familiar with to enter the STEM field?
Okay. Well, I'll talk about civil engineering and construction management because that's what I do. I would research, say, if that's what you want to do for your career, say construction management, I would research exactly what it is that we do. I think you'll find out pretty quickly it has to do with construction. And getting involved in construction could be as simple as, if you have some sort of connections or maybe your professors get you connections to companies like Whiting Turner or even architecture firms, or if worst case scenario, pick up a hammer and, put on your work gloves and go out there and do some construction. I know when I was actually, I want to say a senior in high school, I demoed my brother's boss's house. Didn't want to hire a company to do it. So that's kind of how I got my start in construction. I literally went out there with a, what do you call it? A dumpster that was there already. And I just kind of tore that house apart. And that's how I learned how things kind of came together. So any kind of opportunity you can get that will eventually lead you to what you're going to be passionate about, I would say go for it. Don't be afraid, don't be shy, and put yourself out there, just like Jose said.
Okay. And Danny, any programs or organizations you recommend?
No, I know the Corps of Engineers, we have a summer program that they can try to register for the summer working program and look into that. And you can request which sections you want to look at. And because we have accounting, we have engineering, we have construction, we have different sections in the Corps of Engineers, and you can work for the summer program. I think it's about 2-3 months, and you can develop some experience.
Sorry, Anthony. Can I just jump in there
Sure.
again? I don't know how I overlooked this, but parallel to SHEP, I also have to talk a little bit about ACE as well, right? Because that was just like very crucial for me to get exposed to my current field right now, right? So the AEC world, right? You pretty much don't know anything about it coming out of school, high school. But that was a great program that kind of exposed me to what would turn out to be my career. So yeah, ACE, SHEP, any local SHEP chapter, definitely great ideas.
Yeah, in high school, I actually got involved with Inroads a little bit. They came to my school and they talked about scholarships that they offer, especially for going to college. Um, but I would just say anybody, I mean, if you're interested in this industry, just look at the company names of the projects you see out there. Most of these companies have a summer hire program for high school students. You can look it up and just see what the application process is, and just see overall what what opportunities exist out there. Sometimes even if it's just to come for a site visit, you have also they kind of have like an open house. We come in and take a look and find out what they do on a day-to-day basis. You can see whether every day they're always out there in the field, or what do they do in the office. So those opportunities do exist for you to kind of find out what goes on in the industry, or what field you want to get into. I would always recommend that you always get a taste for the career field you want to get into. So I'm going to ask two of our panelists one very particular question, which kind of been near and dear to our mission statement for the org. So I'll first start off with you, Nit. As a Hispanic, how did it feel as just Hispanic entering the career field and now being a STEM professional, and also being part of the Hispanic community?
Actually, to be completely honest, when I first joined Whiting Turner or got into the professional world in STEM, I didn't even really consider my race all that much. I kind of just went to work and focused on learning as much as I possibly could, and try to stand out as much as I possibly could, and do my job well. It wasn't until later on in my career, once I felt more comfortable and more established, that I just started to look around and go, you know what? I think I need to represent more for my people. And then when I had kids, that just kind of blew the whole door wide open, because they are of Latin descent as well. So my journey to as being, or considering myself to be a full-on contributing member of the Latino race, as well as being a member of STEM, kind of evolved eventually, which I think is fine. I mean, I think you'll find when you first start your career, jitters, and you got a lot of things that you want to accomplish and make sure you've got at least your good foothold in what you do. But my growth in it was evolution, and I think that's all right. But I think it's also really important to recognize that you have organizations like SHEP, and to get involved and stay involved. If anything, I think I wish I probably would have stayed more involved with SHEP, because I was part of it in college. Then I started my career, and that kind of just disappeared, and then came back into my life later on. And I think if there was any, I guess, regret you could call, is that I didn't stay with SHEP, which only honestly probably would have helped me in my career. So yeah.
Thank you, Nit. How about you, Jose?
Sure, absolutely. So, I went in there with an open mind, and with too thin of a skin, I guess, but it got thicker over time. But again, having that open mind did help. So basically, us, Latinos, Hispanics, we like to keep, I guess, to ourselves, right? With our peers, with our own community. And you don't see a lot of that in the STEM workforce, right? You still, to this very day, much less so, women in the STEM workforce. But there's this quote that I pulled up, and I'll read to you guys. A comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there, right? So again, I try to push myself to always put myself in these uncomfortable situations, right? And there's some concern, especially for minorities, whether you're what's the term called, code switching, whether you're maybe being one person at work and another person at home, that's totally fine, right? It's your work, and there's value in being versatile, right? You could use that to your advantage. Sort of, I guess, like how a chameleon, right, lives in nature. So again, being open, trying to learn, trying to make every experience a learning opportunity. Uh, yeah.
Okay. Um, so I'd like to ask, like, when all of you began to kind of look at STEM, or where you are today, like what led you to first decide you want to get into this field? So I'm asking, like, what made you one day just say, "Hey, electrical engineering," or did it get there?
Yeah, like I started out as my major originally was computer engineering, and I didn't do so well in computer programming. And I talked to the counselor and I asked him what is a field that's similar in engineering that's similar to computer, and they said electrical. So I switched to electrical, and um, I just enjoyed it. And what I learned in college was microelectronics, like how to make computer chips. But when I started looking for jobs, and I just looked for any job that would give me experience and just learn, and I fell into the construction field and engineering construction and and I just went from there, and I just kept on learning, and I enjoyed the work we did and the things we built, and just seeing stuff you put on drawings and getting built in construction, and just seeing it all put together.
How about you, Jose? What got you into this career field?
To be honest, I would say it was mostly chance. I was somewhat better in science and math than I was at other subjects, but not that much better to take on an academic, I guess, path towards engineering. Now, I stayed on because it was challenging. It was very difficult, and unfortunately, a lot of my friends or peers at the time, they either switch majors, which is fine, right? But I'm a firm believer that you pave your own path, right? And you make your own fate, you make your own destiny, and if it's easy, it's really not worth it, right? At least that's how I like to see it. And I guess the joy that I find in being able to put something, or I guess take something from paper and make it into something like a physical object, right? So that was why I pursued or continue to pursue mechanical engineering.
Okay. How about you, Dan?
Engineering was almost predetermined for me by my father, but my actual career itself was just like a Jose, almost purely accidental. So I was fortunate enough to have a father who had great foresight, and one of his main lessons to me was, grow up and develop, or get a degree, or work in a field where you will never be considered expendable, right? And as a member or someone that works in STEM as an engineer or a scientist, society will never, ever perceive you as expendable. If anything, they'll perceive you as the elite. So my father drilled that into my head and my brother's head. And I actually graduated, I didn't say this, from Manhattan College with electrical engineering degree. My older brother, Manhattan College, electrical engineering degree. And my younger brother, Manhattan College, electrical engineering degree. Because we all bought into that. We do not want to be expendable. We want to be valued as far as society. And how I ended up in civil engineer had, it's a bit of a story, but it has to do with what Jose said, not being afraid to try new things, because you never know where your passions will lie. Well, I found my passion for building things by destroying a house. How ironic, right? So my senior year of high school, I just happened to stumble into a meeting for Whiting Turner. And 15 years later, I'm still here. So best piece of advice I would tell for anyone that is trying to get into STEM, stay with it. It's going to be difficult, but at the end of the day, it'll be worth it, because if anything, that degree is going to give you not only respect in society, but also give you the best respect that there is, which is self-respect. So, yeah.
So thank you. For me myself, as a kid, I wanted to be a pilot because it was kind of cool. You fly a plane and do cool things. But I instead was, as cool as being a pilot is, I was actually very interested in construction, period. My background, as you see, basically is what got me interested. You see these cool cranes coming in, installing these steel member beams, and you're building something. And being in New York City, you see a lot of construction. And so I was surrounded just by seeing these cool things going on every day growing up, and I wanted to get involved. And I had no idea what is behind construction other than you see these people working on it and everything. And so later on, as soon as I got more involved in high school, I was then told, hey, if you want to get into construction, there's more than just being a laborer working. And you see people working there. There's folks that actually design this, that actually put it together. It's not just putting a couple bricks and then making it look, like a cool building, but there's actually a science behind the design and what goes there, and more and more. So that's how I got more interested and involved. And then later I know, like, okay, I guess in order to go into that field and to go into more design work and to construct these cool things, you have to go into civil engineering. So that's what led me then to civil engineering, and then going on to taking particular classes. At one point I was interested in doing roadways because roadways look pretty cool to me. And then I took a highway engineering class, and I realized it was boring for me. So what did I do? I was afraid to take structural because I didn't like structural, but I found my groove in actually geotechnical engineering. Why? Because it was a little bit of mystery because it's underground. You can't see it until you dig it out, right? But at the same time, you have a lot of design work behind it. So to me, it was a mix of like the mystery, but also some definiteness that you'd see in structural engineering. So I started to get love in geotechnical work. And so I took more classes in college for that. Granted, right now I'm doing more than geotechnical. I actually do a little bit more involvement of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, some computer programming, simply because when we do these cool constructions, they're no longer just a shell of a building. They actually have cool technology in it to make the building livable and workspace for it. So that, to me, that's my pathway to where I am today, but more so just kind of like how I got interested in the field itself. So I'm going to ask again, if you were to give these students an advice of like, hey, what's the best way for me to decide which STEM field is for me? What would you tell the students here today? Jose, how would you tell the students to kind of their decision tree?
Absolutely. Well, for starters, if you're picking any sort of, STEM path, you already have so many opportunities that are going to be available to you down the line, right? Myself, as a mechanical engineer, I work at a hospital now. I used to work at a consulting engineering firm specialized in building systems. I could very easily be working in a Tesla factory, right, overseeing their plant operations, right? So it's very applicable to I guess all the different industries, right? So if you want to be able to maybe, I don't want to use the term jump around, but if you want to have some degree of flexibility in what you do, but still with those with that foundation, grounded in engineering, I would definitely say that mechanical engineering is probably the way to go. But if you're more into computers and all that stuff, and that's obviously the future, right? And even now, right? Then go that realm. But if you're more hands-on, if you like to see something, take shape from paper into like actually seeing it built, definitely civil engineering, anything in the construction realm, right? And then, but I would say more importantly, don't pressure yourself to like kind of like pick a major either, right? Because all the core courses in college are all the same, and then that's when you start branching out after your first year probably. So don't feel super pressured.
Okay, how about you, Nat? Any advice on how these students can decide what they want?
Yeah, I mean, take a look at what it is that you like, going into college, right? I know when I went in, I picked electrical engineering because I liked electronics. I like taking apart computers and putting things back. So I figured, okay, it's got to be something with electronics. Ironically, building a computer was probably more like building a building for me, but that I didn't know that till much later on. But I would say your first year when you're taking your core classes, I can imagine that most of your schools, I know Manhattan College has this, has various clubs, various programs, and professors that are more than eager to tell you about, what it would be like in the professional world, or, what, say, civil engineers do, or what mechanical engineers or electrical engineers do. Pick their brain. That's what they're there for. You're in the school, get to know them, join an organization like SHEP or even NESB or SWE or whatever, and start talking to people. They'll have events where they'll have companies come and talk, and then you'll listen and go, oh, that's what I want to do. The more involved you are, the more, you can get to know other organizations and even people that you would not normally think to talk to, the more likely you're going to find what you love to do. And I know in college, I didn't do that as much. So now I'm a huge advocate and proponent for telling people, like, go out there and go see everything. If there's an aeronautic and space engineering presentation and you're just thinking about civil, go see it. Why? Because you never know. Maybe you like building things, but it's not buildings, it's rockets. And you'll find out more. But just put yourself out there and just absorb everything you can.
Thank you. And how about you, Danny?
Yeah, similar to the other panelists, like just give it a try and see what you like. Talk to different mentors or counselors, or maybe like friends, families, people that work in the industry. Just give everything a shot and see something you like and pursue it. If you don't like it, it's not the end of the world. You can keep moving and but if you really want to hone the craft, just don't give up. Even though some people might discourage you, just keep working at it. It's not an easy field, but it pays off in the long run.
Thank you. One other thing I'm going to ask the panelists is, what is probably the most important skill that a high school student can learn today that will benefit them in their STEM career field? Unit, how about you?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm gonna, I guess, relate it. Actually, you can probably relate it to every industry. Construction management is mostly about management, and what do you manage? Usually, you manage people. Learning to talk to people, learning to talk about yourself, which I think is a skill that you learn. It's not something that you're born with. It is a very powerful tool. Confidence will take you very far. In any industry that you work in, and confidence comes from obviously knowing what you do. So make sure that work hard and learn your craft very well. But at the same time, don't shy away from getting to know people. Put yourself out there, because in the professional world, you're going to be put on a team that you may not necessarily have chosen the people, and you have to get along with everyone and learn to work with people. And in construction, I have to work on every project. Different contractors, different personalities. Some, take a little longer to get to know and like sometimes, and sometimes you just don't like, but you got to work with them. But you have to get through that, and that develops your character, your confidence, and also your professionalism, which I think ultimately, as you climb the higher and higher the ranking in your company, you're going to need, especially if you're going to be a team leader, because you're going to have to lead not only people you like, but the people that are underneath you, and you have to adjust.
Annie, how about you? What's the one skill that a high school student will probably want to learn or develop?
I think just practice, knowing to just keep on working, just working hard and just not giving up. And because I didn't, some things I weren't good at, I had to keep practicing and just keep reading and just keep talking to people and just trying to learn, and don't let it deter you, and just keep working at it.
Jose?
For me, I'm split between being disciplined and I guess being proactive, right? but if I had to pick one, I definitely go with being proactive, because if you're proactive, you could make up if if you're being kind of like not lazy but slacking off a little bit on something. So that's an invaluable skill, both in school, in the academic world, and in the professional world, right? Being able to do something without uh, being given minimal or almost no direction is super important, when you have a job, but then also if you're being proactive in school, if you're asking the teacher all the right questions, right? If you're doing all the homework and then going the extra mile to get it reviewed and stuff, that's something that I feel like I learned a little bit too late, but I learned it, right? So that's valued uh, at work, and that's also valued in school as well, right? Like teachers see that, and unfortunately, well, at least my experience was in high school. A lot of the information was spoon fed to me, right? So you really don't think, or you don't develop that skill set early on, because you're kind of expecting things to just be given to you, or you're expecting to receive direction on what your next step is going to be, right? But being able to take that next step on your own without receiving direction is crucial.
And
Thank
just to
you.
add on, sorry, Anthony,
Sure,
to add
sure.
on what Jose said, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I can't believe I forgot about that. Self-discipline as an engineer is crucial. And it's not something that I think, you really need to start when you are a professional. I know a lot of us who, I know I did, but if you're in college, self-discipline can be, all right, I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock every morning. Self-discipline is I'm going to run every single morning. Self-discipline is I'm not going to eat potato chips, at 10 o'clock at night. So I'm going to go to bed at a reasonable hour. It starts there. And if you carry those behaviors into the professional world, it will push or what's the word, catapult your career dramatically, because those self-disciplined behaviors translate into you working more efficiently, looking more professional, and being a better team member for your group. So thank you for mentioning that, Jose.
Thank you. And what I would mention, and I always keep stressing to the younger students, is writing skills is probably the best important skill you can learn, mainly because it's one way for you to communicate. While communicating face to face, or in this case nowadays through Zoom, is good and everything, but a lot of times you're sending a message over through via email, by a physical letter, or text message, whatever. It's not enough that you say like, "Hey, bro, well, what's up?" You really have to effectively write what you're conveying and for who the audience is, and that only can really come from by obviously practicing. But you need to go through it and learn. I remember in high school I had real bad grammar, and I actually in sophomore year had to sit down and learn the basics of just kind of writing everything out and improving it. But even that wasn't enough. I go now into the professional field, and more I get into it, I got to start writing more and more, formal business letters, or just communicating just the basics of to different audiences, right? In college, we were told to how to write, formal reports, engineering reports, and it's nice and everything, but your reports now you're giving it to someone who is not an engineer or not familiar with STEM fields. So how do you explain to them why you're constructing this or why you need to do this? You can't scare them and say, "Hey, if this isn't built, your house is going to get flooded." Well, not necessarily. They can then say, "Well, my house has never been flooded, in 40 years, 100 years." Well, let me explain to you why this is necessary, why you're part of a greater ecosystem, or whatever the case may be. Your communicating skills is very important. And in order for you to learn that, a lot of it has to do with you writing out your thoughts. I know myself, when I ever give a speech or a presentation, it's not enough that you do it on the fly. You actually have to sit down and write an outline, practice what you're going to say, and just mentally think, all right, this is what I'm going to verbalize to everybody, or who's my audience that I'm speaking to. Am I speaking to families? Am I speaking to adults? Am I speaking to kids? Am I speaking to owners? Am I speaking to people who have an interest? Am I just speaking to the general public? So what are the words that we can use? And obviously, you don't want to offend folks. You don't want to alarm folks. You also don't want to hide, certain truths from the audience you're speaking to. So you have to find the most effective way to provide the most information and a clear, concise, thought out way so that whoever you're communicating to understands what you're saying or is able to make a decision or what they say, an informed decision based on the information you've provided them. So that's very important that you should learn right now that you're in high school to go to your professors and say, hey, did I write correctly? Or what better ways can I improve to communicate? Believe it or not, those run-on sentences or when you're writing 4 pages, you could probably be able to do it in 1 page. So kind of find a way to kind of cut down on the fluff and more go straight to the point on detailing what the key important information you're trying to convey, whether it be your book report or even, hey, there's a delay in the delivery of steel for this project. And how do you explain it away? Well, you could tell a whole story where like, here's the deal. There's a shortage of this, and because of this is what's going on. Done. This is why we're late. All right. They don't need to hear about, the truck broke down or, there's smoke in the factory, whatever. What's straightforward? Why are we in this situation? So, well, we're approaching to the end of the hour. I don't know if there was any extra question. Mr. Reed, did you see anything that kind of stood out that we wanted to address?
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. And I'm welcoming anyone. If you have any questions, comments, please, feel free to unmute. I did see some questions in the chat box, but if anybody wants to unmute, please feel free to go ahead. Yeah, go for it, Robert.
Hi, Robert Brown from Rockaway Park High School out in Rockaway, Queens, CTE carpentry teacher. I have a lot of minority students, both African American, Hispanic speaking students. What might be your advice for me to try and get them enthused in the STEM fields? They just seem, at least a lot of the students that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, they're telling me, oh, I hate math, I hate science. So it's so hard for me to even get them enthused about the carpentry field. Or is it something, I don't want to give up on them. I don't give up on them. But if students are of that mindset from such an early age, what can we do to change their mindset to get them interested in the STEM fields? Any suggestions?
Well, I'll show you one example that got me interested in one specific topic in college, because even my classroom felt like, hey, what do I need statistics for? It's a percentage or whatever. It either happens or doesn't happen. I don't even know 1 in 4 chances of what. So the teacher actually broke it down to this: you're learning the math to come out with a percentage or a probability, and you could use it for STEM issues. But then they told us that the same math, you could use it to figure out a good loan for if you want to buy a house or a car. Mm-hmm. So with that mindset, we're like, oh, so you're going to teach us how to buy a house? Yeah, I'm going to teach you the math. Oh, okay. So sometimes it might be a breakdown of what you're trying to teach and what they can use practicality. I mean, if it's carpentry, the number one thing you can say is, hey, you can, instead of buying constantly IKEA stuff for your home, mm-hmm. now you can actually build stuff that you'll be able to use for your family, for your friends, and your own home, that you can actually do stuff. Instead of that constantly paying for a contractor to do repair work, you yourself can now have the skills to do the work yourselves. Mm-hmm. These are certain skills that you could use part-time to pay for school, pay for whatever. I mean, some of us who work in the STEM field today went to college and were probably doing a construction job on the side to pay for school. I know one of my classmates was a regular laborer. He was just carrying cinder blocks back and forth to pay for school. And then in the classroom, he knew a little bit about structures simply because he knew that they had to use a certain type of concrete, certain type of brick because of the strength. Why the purpose of a rebar, because they would have to reinforce a wall. That's one thing I would kind of say. I have Edward on the line here. Edward, do you have any advice? Because I know you've also dealt with
Just to
Go ahead.
reiterate, everything you just said is things I do, but thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, just to add to that, Rob, thank you for sharing that as well. And I think that's an ongoing, I guess, challenge, not only in New York, but just the US, right? We definitely have an issue with that, right? I would say, going back to Anthony's point, the way at least that I saw it, when even amongst my friends in high school, when they said, yeah, we're never going to use this stuff ever, and you may never use math in your entire career. Even me as an engineer, I necessarily don't use every single formula that I've learned, right? But I think it's taught to us to help us exercise, like our brain is a muscle, right? So we're exercising it by learning these complex numbers and just ways of figuring out a solution to a problem, right? So I think maybe, conveying that information to the students, say, hey, like, just like, you would go to the gym or you go swim or run, your brain needs some exercising too. And it's also, I've got many I guess relatives, family members that have worked their butts off, manual labor, their entire lives, but now they're kind of messed up health wise. So also, emphasizing that, it's about working smarter and not harder, right? And whether or not, you want to be, just another worker, or you want to affect change at some point, right? And the thought of that kind of like indirectly influenced me to pick something that could be of significance, right? Definitely the trades, math, sciences, they're definitely not emphasized enough, particularly the trades, right? I went to a vocational high school, so I kind of like knew that from the get-go. But if all else fails, right? Not that engineers, we make a lot of money. We definitely don't by a long shot. But if people want to make a decent living, maybe money's the motivation for some folks, right? Because there isn't a lot of that in minority communities. So trying different ways, right? And thank you for not giving up on them, right? I know it could be very difficult with first generation high school students particularly, right? There's so many barriers, right? Cultural barriers, language barriers, but I think it's a success if one, two, or three, or a handful of students make it the other side. So thank you.
I agree
Thank
with
you.
what Jose said. Making it more practical tends to communicate better to younger people. I have kids and they're not in high school age, but they're like 9, 10. And I'm already just hitting them with practicality left and right. Like, for example, they have an allowance, they have their piggy bank, and they want to spend all their money on V-Bucks for Fortnite. And I sit there and go, okay, well, let's look at your money. You have $300, say, for example, and you want to spend $50 on V-Bucks. Okay, that's this month, but you spent $50 last month. How long until you completely have no more money? And then they do the math and they go, oh my God, I'm going to be done before summer. Okay, well, what are you going to do about Christmas? What are you going to do about this person's birthday? And they just start to think, and that wheel starts to go. Now, as a teacher, unfortunately, you're kind of in that position as a teacher, and anything that comes out of your mouth it's coming from a teacher. So if I were to give you advice, especially when talking about practicality, I don't know if the school provides this. I know SHEP does to an extent, mentoring programs. So these students can actually talk to people like me who will not come out as, a teacher telling you this, but as a friend or even as a mentor that can tell you the real deal on what's going to happen.
Right.
Just like what Jose, sometimes it's just about, money in, money out.
Right.
They'll get it.
Okay.
Thank you, Nick.
And Nit, I wanted to supplement that. So within the chat box, we do have some teachers who are interested. And by the way, thanks for correcting me. I've been saying SHIPE. I didn't know it was SHIP, even though the acronym doesn't seem like how I would pronounce it. But some of our schools are interested, though, if they want to get directly connected to your organization. They have kids who want to be a part of your mentoring program. How exactly do we go about this? What should they do?
So what I would say is, number one, you can go to our website, shpe-nyc.org or shpe.org. Those are national and local website where you could look at all our programs that exist out there, just the general information. And if you want to email us, we do have an email address, which is info@nyc.org. And you could ask us a direct question. But also Edward also posted on the chat also our contact information as well for you to reach out. I think Mr. Brown, you actually also brought up a very important thing that we might not have mentioned on this talk, but it's mostly towards our fellow educators is what you actually present is something that is missing with respect to your teaching tool. And not many of us STEM professionals realize that we're an important part of that, of your tool belt per se, is it's also important that although you might be sending out the right message, that you need other folks to be also delivering the same message that you're delivering, and you need a different face. And so a forum like this is necessary for your students so that we can emphasize the same messaging that you're giving to your students. I think what's missing a lot of times is you're their main face that they see here every day, but sometimes it takes a different face or a different voice to kind of convey the same thing for them to realize, oh, you know what? And it could be either the next day, the same day, or maybe 20 years from now. You know, Mr. Brown was right the whole time. I do need that skill, or I do needed to do that. And I can guarantee you, each one of us on the palace, you know, we might have been taught something that we might think it's not necessary, and we've kind of forgotten it. And believe it or not, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, we'll always look back at the educator and say, you know what, they were right. But as us STEM professionals today, we do have a responsibility to extend ourselves to come to your classroom and try to convey either the same or similar messaging that you're trying to convey to your students, whether it be a practical lesson, a specific skill, or even an introduction to the industry. Just so, because sometimes, again, in the classroom, you might be sitting there and not realize, you know, what kind of benefits or opportunities this. And unfortunately, because a lot of us, you know, myself included, might be coming from a background where we don't see these opportunities for ourselves, or we don't see these practicality skills practical just because of our environment that we're surrounded by. And it takes us, you know, again, from taking us out of our comfort zone that we've been in, or our environment, to see, oh, you know what, I do need this skills. Oh, if I only have learned this, then I wouldn't be going through this hard effort and so on. So the only other advice I would give you, other than what's already been stated, is to invite us, like us, into your classroom, and perhaps engage us with respect to what kind of messaging either you need reinforcement in, or perhaps what kind of different perspective we can give on what your teaching plan is, right? Because one of our responsibilities, us, not just as STEM professionals, but also as minority STEM professionals in the Latinx community, is to find a way to not only bring others to the community, but also give back and say, hey, I was just like you at one point, whether it be same exact or just differently. Someone opened our eyes to this field, and it got us interested. And believe it or not, it's just one person. It was a whole string of folks that came along the way that helped us and assisted us. You know, I can tell you who was the one teacher who influenced me on concentrating on writing, but that was step one. And then took me another professor to teach me, oh, how to actually write a business letter and so on, right? So now that's step two, about the importance of it. And to the coworker to say, hey, this is what you really need. Now that's step three. That's a span of many years. And so it takes all of us as a general community of STEM professionals to be involved. So what you actually had, like I said again, is something that we ourselves need to get involved and in touch with educators like yourselves to kind of assist with your toolkit that you have in educating the kids.
All
All
right.
right.
Thanks, Anthony. I saw that, Michael,
you.
you had a question. I will invite you to unmute if you would like to. If not, I'll ask the question on your behalf. Michael from Brooklyn Tech. He wanted to know, what are the kinds of credentials and certifications that you guys have? Do you all have OSHA 30? And if so, what are the other certifications you recommend for our kids?
Well, I mean, the OSHA 10 is the basic. If you want to get into construction, and OSHA 30 is more in depth, just about the OSHA book and skills and everything. So basically the certifications is that someone taught you what's in the OSHA safety manual. That's basically it. It just says that you're familiar with it and you're taking responsibility to be knowledgeable of it. But it really takes more of you're getting to know more and more of it. But there's plenty of other credentials that exist out there. Our panelists have several credentials that they have on themselves, and it's based on either what they're working on today or what they have worked on in the past. I know, Nick, you have one particular credential for where you initially started or currently working with. What's one credential you have?
For what we do, construction management, there's the OSHA 30, there's, obviously first aid and CPR. But fortunately, I think, and most companies do this, they provide them for you when you go into the professional world. So once I graduated and joined Whiting Turner, they said, all right, you're not a Whiting Turner employee. Well, here are the certifications you're going to need. And, here are your training days. And that's really all you need to do. It's not something that you have to go out and get yourself. But, and there are other certifications like professional engineer and things like that you may need if you go into design, but it all depends on what your career path, for management, construction management purposes, similar to what Anthony says, you got your certifications, your safety certifications, but your company will help you get those if you need them.
How about you, Jose? Any certifications you have?
I mean, do we have another 30 minutes? No. So it really depends, right? I don't know who asked the question, but it depends on your career path, what you're getting into. I would just piggyback off of whatever you guys have said. I've got the CEM, Certified Energy Manager. It's related to what I do, right? So you don't want to just...
Jose, just repeat where it is that you work, because some of the kids were asking where it is that you work and what you do.
I work at a hospital, Mount Sinai Health System. I work at the Upper West Side campus, Mount Sinai Morningside. That's where I work. So, it really depends, but you want to get those certifications once you've already, graduated college and picked a career path, right? Because getting OSHA 30, if you're going to be, writing code, isn't really helpful, right? You don't have to put a hard hat on to code, right? So and vice versa, right? So it really depends on what you're interested in. Just focus on your classes and let that, I guess, decide for you on what certification you're gonna look at. But really quick, I want to go back to Mr. Brown. I think you're, going back to being proactive, right? You're joining in on this chat, right? So that's already a great first step, right? And seeing what resources are available to you, right? It's definitely sometimes not the message isn't the problem. It's who's saying it, right? And not that you're sending the wrong message, but sometimes it takes a team of people, right? It's to kind of like hammer home that one, I guess, idea to allow for the students to open up, and then also to take what they say in stride, right? They're high school students. They may say one thing now, and they may not mean it. I'm sure they don't. But yeah, again, we're all here for you and for anyone else who may need any additional, I guess, mentorship, for their students, right? Shep
Right.
is for sure.
Thank you.
And And Danny, you have your lead certification, correct?
Yes, I have my the lead for the energy, the green building, and professional engineering. But that's more down the road. I'd worry more about like just finding what you like to do, and I think once you graduate, then depends on what field you want to go into. But like the gold standard would be the professional engineering if you're looking like that'd be further down the road because that opens the door for so many other opportunities because you can move between different jobs. You can be like an inspector, you can be like an auditor, you can be an investigator. There's so many things you can do with the PE because that opens so many doors for you.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
Can I jump on something here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi guys. My name is Michael Bollis. I teach at Brooklyn Tech, and I'm a professional engineer. I have my PE, and I find something very much interesting is that in all these programs, how to open the appetite itself for the children. You understand? So you tell them that you have them the first 1 week, 2 weeks, but you have to introduce them to the certification. And this is a kind of, for them, I mean, for myself, it's a kind of prestige. When you say, yes, I have OSHA theory, yes, I'm a professional engineer, I'm a professional architect, we have to give them these pictures, you understand? To let them, hey, guys, you're gonna be a responsible young man, young woman in the field. You understand? Whatever is the future, whatever is the highway they're gonna take, you understand what I'm talking about? We have to implement in their heads, hey, you're gonna be a responsible young man, young lady, hey, this is the path. So we have to draw the path for them. If you take this, you're gonna go that, don't forget, that's what I do in my classes. I say, guys, if you're gonna go for engineering, don't forget, life can take you away to do whatever you want. Be a PE engineer, study for it, do it during the college, You understand? They know where they're going. They have a path, they have a highway to drive on. So I think with your organization, maybe you think about some certification. Like I just, when I entered the meeting, it just came to my mind the OSHA theory because it's easy. It's not a kind of pressure of the codes and stuff like that. It can be presented in a way where the student can take it. I want to mention last thing, in my school, there is an OSHA program now being teaching by a teacher, and we have a full class from the student taking the OSHA now while they are in high school. Don't forget, while the student working or studying in your program, she can find an opportunity for another company. The first thing they ask, do you have this? So we have, I guess, to enlighten our kids, our children, be prepared. We can give you this now, do that now. I guess at the end of the day, they're going to be inspired. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michael. Any other questions or thoughts? All right, I think that's it. All right, everybody, thank you so much to the SHEP team. Thank you for the schools and students who attended today. We will be following up with our takeaway notes. And if anybody's interested in connecting directly to the SHEP team, just let me know. And by the way, to Anthony, Danny, Nit, am I missing anybody? Jose, of course. We do have an open invitation to you if you want to build any relationships with our schools. I mean, so far, we do have McKee High School that reached out to me. They said that they're very interested in having you talk to their students whenever you do have the availability. So I do have an open invitation to you for not only McKee High School, but any of our high schools within the CTE portfolio, because we're always looking for mentoring opportunities. We're always looking for opportunities to hear from industry professionals such as yourself so that we can enhance the talents that we're preparing for the workforce. So thank you so much for your time. And I really appreciate everything that you guys do, everything that you've put together. And also, if there's any other resources or scholarships, anything like that you want to share, please do so, or you can forward those things to me so that I can distribute it to our schools as well. But thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. And yeah, we do have a high school scholarship that's going to be publicized soon for those that are going to seeking for some funding to pay for college. Our mentorship program is looking to start off formally sometime in the fall. Currently, right now, we're kind of developing on the technological platform for it to use it, because obviously it's no longer in person, but using it virtually. That way you can connect with other professionals across the country, not just here in the New York metro area. So that's rolling out sometime in the fall time period. So keep an eye out for that. But definitely invite us to any of your schools, any classrooms. We're not just construction, we're different other fields. We have technology, we have sustainability, again, construction. So there's many different fields that you can get involved with that we're we have a professional there somewhere.
All right, excellent. All right, thank you again. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi,
Hi,
guys.
guys.